Hello, all you baby shockers out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor.
Just going for it. Okay.
They got to listen to podcasts too. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
Hey.
Today we're going to recap and discuss Star Trek DS9 Season 5, Episode 12? The Begotten. Alternate title, Operation Double Plotline Wrap-Up.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just in case this is your first time watching Star Trek DS9, we will attempt to only discuss spoilers up through this episode, but we will spoil all kinds of other stuff, so proceed at your own risk.
Yep, I plan on spoiling all the things.
Yep. I think last time we did a bunch of Agatha Christie books, so...
Yeah.
The Begotten originally aired... I don't think that's the right date. I'm going to fix that.
The wiki says 27 January, 97.
And Paramount Plus confirms, so okay, we'll go with that. January 27th, 1997. It was written by Renee Echevarria and directed by Jesus Salvador Trevino.
Yeah, this is his first Star Trek.
I know it must be his first Star Trek, because I definitely have never said that name before.
He is from El Paso, Texas.
Oh, neat.
And he's going to do 3 episodes of Deep Space Nine, 5 episodes of Voyager. But really, looking at his IMDb, he appears to just be like one of those directors roaming around doing random episodes of stuff. Like,
sure.
There's 1 episode of Lots of Things, 5 episodes of Bones, 5 episodes of Third Watch, 9 episodes of Resurrection Boulevard. He did some Babylon 5. He did some Chicago Hope, The Pretender, Sequest 2032. So he's all over the place.
Huh.
And
it's
then
a hired gun, I guess.
Yeah. Then there's like after 2000, like he has 1 job in 2009, 1 job in 2010, and then nothing until 1 episode in 2022 of a show called Gospel Bill.
Okay.
Which I've never heard of. So I guess I don't know what he was doing for those like 13 years in between there, but hopefully he was having a good time.
Just kicking around El Paso.
Maybe.
Anyway, Sarah Clofton is not in this episode, strangely.
There's also another main character not in the episode. Did you notice?
Okay, let me think for a second. Is it Dax?
It is Dax. Yes, Terry Farrell is not in this episode.
Wow. I just thought it was weird for Sarah Clofton, this being such like a father-son, like parenthood-heavy episode, but he's been in enough of those, so...
It's true. According to this is the first episode of the series in which Terry Farrell does not appear.
Wow. I could have sworn
I feel like that can't be right.
Yeah, I could have sworn we've mentioned this about episodes before, but I think maybe we've at least had one where she didn't have any lines.
Yeah, or she's just like hanging out there.
As we know, Memory Alpha is totally infallible.
Yep, right. Worf never calls him Quark. Not
right. If Memory Alpha says something, that's a true fact. Anyway, so at the beginning of this episode, Odo hobbles into the infirmary with his latest in being a solid related ailments, a bad back. Dr. Bashir quickly diagnoses it as a pinched nerve from bad posture, something that Odo needs to pay attention to now that he has a spine.
I do love the little bit that Odo has become a hypochondriac since he can suddenly contract diseases.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of can't blame him. Bashir recommends Worf's yoga class, but then Quark wanders in and gives his own prescription of holosuite sex with Orion slave girls.
I mean, both good options. Let's,
Yeah. I mean, one sounds way more fun.
Maybe you should really try both and compare.
Right.
Find out what works best for you personally.
Do like a control study. Like
it's weird to me that Worf has a yoga class. Not that Worf would, do Klingon yoga, but that Worf would want to be around other people enough to like teach them Klingon yoga. I mean, he used to do like a self-defense class for the Alien Enterprise, but I almost feel like that's when you're head of security, you're kind of expected to arrange for that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think just based on what we saw when he was, on the Enterprise, he just likes doing his part, chipping in or something, teaching in class here and there. Or maybe they just all Starfleet officers have to teach a class or something, because we're always seeing like Beverly doing her like theater classes and stuff too. So
Oh yeah, she directs the plays and things.
Yeah.
It's like one of those. It's one of their performance review goals is to show
Yeah.
that you've.
It's one of their lead behaviors.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, Quark is like, hey, also take a look at this thing a Yridian sold me. That he just found somewhere, I guess. Floating out in space or something.
Yeah, we never established anything about where it was or why
Yeah.
it was exposed to horrible amounts of radiation, but whatever.
Yeah, this is, I think this story might be more interesting than the story of the episode, but he holds out a fancy-looking box containing what he believes is a dead changeling. But Odo quickly upgrades the condition of the changeling to alive.
Sweet.
Which is sick. Bashir comes over and is like, hey, why don't you give that to me so we can put it in a security field? I mean, I don't really care about changelings or anything, but... And then Odo was like, no need for... You see, this changeling is a baby.
Yeah, Bashir, if only you could recognize that, you would have known not to ask that.
Bashir's like, oh, I didn't know anything about baby changelings. That's so interesting. Wow, changelings have babies? Odo presumes this is one of the 100 baby changelings sent out by the Founders in their not at all stupid plan of exploring the universe with babies.
Yeah.
For you see, if you send a baby to a planet and they punch the baby, you know that's a mean planet. But if they're good to the baby, you know that's a nice planet, according to Odo's interpretation of the situation.
The Founders hate solids, so like why do they care? I don't know.
Yeah. And why would you give them one of your babies? Sisko can't wait to start experimenting on that baby. So Odo volunteers to teach it how to shapeshift. Sisko's like, sure. Oh, and who's that guy who found you as a baby and did all those horrible experiments on you? Dr. Mora. We should get that guy to help. And Odo's like, no, I'm good.
The only guy that we know who knows literally anything about infant changelings. Because while Odo was an infant changeling, he still doesn't really know that much about them. So
True.
it's like, maybe we should recruit the only guy with any experience who's not like a founder. And Odo's like, no, I'd really rather not.
Dr. Bashir is able somehow to get the baby from a sickly jar of blue bath salts to a healthy glass of apple juice. Then he heads off to help Kira, who is starting to give birth. Odo begins talking to the glass of apple juice and tells it about the horrible Dr. Mora and his experiments. But Odo vows to do better. Then he picks up the apple juice and leaves.
Apparently, it was a whole thing to try to get the baby changeling substance to be just right. It says that they did weeks of research and effectively held casting sessions. The producer says Gary Monock and his crew had to come up with goo of the right color and consistency that would hold its form for a moment and then fall down and ooze around. We spent many a night sitting here with different textures and viscosities of goo, trying to decide what would work best.
In one scene, it looked kind of like a flan.
Well, ultimately, they used a variety of substances.
Mm-hmm.
As Gary Monock explains, for the beginning stages, we used gelatin mixture with some other stuff. We also used a plastic that's referred to as hot melt vinyl, which you can heat up and mold. And we made up some goo that's basically like the stuff they pour on people on that Nickelodeon television show.
That one Nickelodeon show.
No, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. It just said on Nickelodeon television. So
Okay.
on every Nickelodeon show.
Right. So now it's time for the Kira giving birth story, which I'll just do all at once, because when I was writing it, I realized it was like 5 sentences long. So
yeah, there's not that much to it.
So anyway, Miles, Keiko, and a midwife or something sit around Kira shaking rattles and banging a little gong. For you see, Bajoran women can't give birth unless they're super calm.
That's a weird like evolutionary trait.
Well, maybe, because you don't want the predators to be around when the baby comes out. So.
No, that's true. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's far superior to the human like horrible pain that they experience. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying it seems weird.
Yeah, the Bajorans they never ate from the forbidden fruit, so they don't have to have pain in childbirth.
Yeah, there you go.
Or I guess not. I mean, we didn't see Kira being in very much pain, so.
No, she didn't seem to be. I feel like if you have to be calm, then the pain would be very counterproductive.
Right. And maybe those herbs help with the pain. I don't know.
Oh, maybe.
But then Shakar shows up. That's right. This is the episode they decided to get Shakar for.
Yep.
Kira can't get relaxed enough to have the baby, so they're going to have to try later. And the midwife admonishes Shakar to not show up late, and then O'Brien to get better at hitting the little gong.
I do like the explanation. It's like, oh no, your body has decided that like it's produced too many endorphins, and it'll be too much if it keeps going. So you'll have to give up and try again later.
Yeah, and I gotta say they gotta get someone else to hit that gong because O'Brien's gong skills are a little lacking.
Yeah, they're lacking. Also, he uses the gong. He uses the gong for evil at times. Yes.
Yeah. So later, Shakar walks in on Miles giving Kira a calf massage, and the two men get into an argument about proper calf massage technique.
It's the beginning of Pulp Fiction all over again.
Yep. But apparently this really relaxes Kira because she announces that it's time. So they both grab her arms and play a weird tug-of-war with her for some reason. A really violent-looking game of human tug-of-war.
Yep.
So we go back to the rattling and gong beating, and finally it's time for the baby to come out. Shakar holds Miles back from seeing the baby come out, because he,
Yeah, there's no need for that. I mean, Miles is upset because he also missed the birth of his other child when Worf, delivered Molly while trapped in 10 forward or whatever. But, dude, you're just going to have to, deal with it. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, Shakar might have a point. I don't know. But Kira kicks them both out of the room for fighting. Out in the hallway, Shakar is like, hey, next time your pregnant wife is in mortal peril, don't put the baby in my girlfriend. But then after a while, the baby really, really starts to come out. And Kira invites them both back in, and all witness the miracle of life.
I'd say the rattling gong thing. I guess that's a standard Bajoran relaxation something or other. But I'm just like, this would not relax me. I don't. Maybe we're going for a white noise ish thing.
Mm.
I don't know. I mean, you could just put on a recording of the rattle and gong if you. But anyway, I don't get it.
It doesn't work on a recording. Later, Kira walks Shakar back to his shuttle. He suggests that she take some leave and spend some more time with him, and then they hug goodbye. So back to the A story. So
well, I'll note here, since it's a good moment for it, slight spoiler.
Okay.
For the future, this is the final appearance of Shakar.
Oh my gosh.
So we've just, I feel like that they really did not know what to do with his character after they got him in a relationship with Kira. They were just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so they messed around for a little bit and then they just gave up on him.
I mean, the writers just clearly are not in love with this character. Because they just, I guess, refuse to pay to bring him back. Even
That's
when
true.
He really should be here.
He costs money. Can't have that.
Yeah, you'd think Brad Pitt was playing this guy or something.
Also, the last appearance of Dr. Mora.
What? He doesn't become a part of Odo's life after this?
And maybe most interestingly, the last appearance but two for Keiko O'Brien.
Oh, wow.
According to the wiki here.
That's kind of crazy.
I know, right? And Rosalind Cho, however you say it, is states in the Deep Space Nine companion book that she kind of saw it coming because after this point, any of her appearances would have to involve two children, which would be subject to child labor laws and such. And so she's like, yeah, I don't think that I'm going to be around much.
Oh, and there's no way the writers could just be like, oh, the kids are at the babysitter.
I guess not.
But okay, yeah, so back to the A story. Now that we have finished up the Kira being pregnant stuff.
Yep.
Got that out of the way. So Worf goes to the Replomat where he witnesses Odo talking to his glass of apple juice. And he's like, what you doing there, buddy? And Odo is like, talking to this changeling. See ya. And then he just walks off. And then Worf is like,
Yeah, I'm like, so did no one tell Worf that there was a baby changeling on the station? And not even a baby, like Odo doesn't say, oh, I'm talking to a baby changeling. He's like, talking to this changeling. And so, like, Worf is like, should I be concerned about this? Like, did Cisco not have, like, a staff meeting where he's like, by the way, there's a changeling, Odo's going to be doing some stuff?
You'd think this would be a kind of a big deal.
Yeah, so either Worf hasn't been paying attention, or he just didn't connect the changeling that he heard about with the thing that Odo was talking to, and afterwards is like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah, who knows? Then Odo goes to the infirmary where he pours out the changeling onto a table, where he talks to it some more about the joys of being a changeling. And he reiterates his promise to never treat the changeling like that evil Dr. Mora. Then the door opens and in walks Dr. Mora, now wearing an earring.
No, he found the prophets since last time.
Well, my theory is that since he was visiting his parents, he had to put on the earring so that he wouldn't have to listen to the whole, like, why aren't you wearing your earring spiel? And you're coming to temple with us tomorrow. And all that.
Do you know how much we spent on that earring? It's not like Kira's that's made from, like, a skimmer that she shot up as a member of the Resistance. Like, This is a nice one.
But yeah, maybe he did find the prophets. I don't know. But Odo's like, wait, I thought you were on Earth, helping Starfleet study the changelings. No, I was back home on Bajor visiting my parents, says Dr. Mora, closing that plot hole that nobody cared about.
I mean, I do like the fact that they're like, once again, there is one person other than Odo in this whole area that knows anything about changelings. So if Starfleet wants to try to make plans involving changelings, this is especially since we find out that he did not take good notes. He's kind of a crappy scientist.
Yes. That was I didn't take any notes. I was just, shocking you, and, who needs to write that stuff down? Anyway, let the experiments commence, says Dr. Mora. Naturally, Odo is not thrilled to have Dr. Mora around, and insists on doing this himself. No, says Dr. Mora, I'd much rather stick around and meddle and be annoying. And then he expresses his quite high opinion of himself for being the only person to have raised a changeling. And somehow he tricks Odo into inviting him to stay and watch. So, Odo teaches the baby changeling the joy of being a sphere, while Dr. Mora looks on skeptically. He tells the pile of honey about the time Dr. Mora shocked him into turning into a cube, and how fun that was once the shocks got turned off. And before he got shoved into a centrifuge.
Right, yeah. Man, the centrifuge probably was not fun.
Yeah. Then it's montage time, where Odo pours the goo into all kinds of different shapes. It's like cube, pyramid, cylinder.
The most mysterious shape in nature. The pyramid.
It's like once you're a pyramid, you will connect with Osiris or something. I don't know.
Such a random thing for Odo to say. It's like, the pyramid is the most mysterious shape in nature. I was like, okay.
Oh, did he say that during the montage? I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Maybe Odo's really fascinated by pyramids. This is just a character trait we've never heard about him before.
He's like the meme of the guy with the big hair on the Sci-Fi Channel being like, aliens did it.
He's watching all those Netflix documentaries about all the new discoveries in Egypt. But, so, yeah, when the montage is over, Dr. Mora's like, yeah, that montage didn't do anything. The baby changeling is still exactly the same. Then Odo and Mora get into an argument about their methods. Mora is totally unapologetic about the things he did to Odo, and seems to only regret that some of the experiments were, quote, inconclusive.
Yeah, he's just like, I mean, so, yeah, like, putting you in the centrifuge didn't get me anywhere, but I didn't know that until I tried, so...
Right. Then he credits all of Odo's success in life to himself.
That's a very parental thing,
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah.
This whole episode is just a study in toxic parenting.
Yeah.
But he's like, yeah, I did all those horrible experiments on you, and that's why you're the successful person you are today. Then Cisco walks in on them arguing and says, oh, hey, Starfleet wants you to hurry up, or else they're just going to take the baby changeling away and do whatever to it.
Yep.
So with it, and Cisco does not seem to feel too bad about this. He's just like, whatever you guys are doing with the changeling, hurry up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, after what he just walked in on, he's like, I mean, yeah, maybe that's actually a good idea at this point.
Yeah. Maybe the Starfleet, like, intelligence people or whatever will be much nicer to the baby changeling. So with the ticking clock now established, Odo gives in, and Dr. Mora gleefully gets to unpacking his shock gizmo that he was good enough to bring.
And he's like, oh man, I hear there's a baby changeling. Let's get the shockers out.
Yeah.
Bring those with me. You can't replicate one of these. Not with the special shocky modifications I've made.
And then he dickishly makes Odo be the one to turn it on.
No, that I get. I'm like... He's like, oh, you spent your whole life blaming me for the things that I did to help you grow. Well, okay, if you've decided that you also want to do these things, well, I'm not going to let you blame me again. You're the one who gets to do it.
But the first experiment is a success, and the puddle of goo turns into a little mound. Odo smiles. Dr. Mora says, yeah, I smiled too when you did that. I didn't realize how much you were going to hate me for it. Then they do another experiment, which is also a success. And Mora is impressed at how much faster this changeling is progressing than Odo. Odo reveals that he deliberately didn't shapeshift out of spite for Dr. Mora.
I do love that little dig where he's like, oh man, I had to do that 3 times before you got it. And he's like, yeah, the first 2 times I purposefully didn't do it just to like stick it to you. And I was like, man, that is even as like a baby changeling, Odo was super petty and vindictive, and I love it.
But instead of having this lead to a moment of introspection where he realizes that, man, maybe I was kind of like a horrible mad scientist, he just sarcastically hopes that this changeling might tell Odo thank you someday. But probably he's just going to be another selfish prick, just like you, and not want to be a lab experiment for his whole life, and then go off and live his own life.
How outrageous. Somebody would want to live their own life and never call.
Yep. I can't believe you didn't call me after all the centrifuges and the... Mora is about to passively aggressively storm off when the baby changeling surprises them by doing a crude imitation of Odo.
So... It says the shot from behind the changeling looking towards Odo and Mora as it tries to mimic Odo's face was not in the budget, and was a shot which director Jesus Salvador Trevino came up with on set because there was no money left. There was no way the shot could be handled as a post-production special effect, so it was going to be abandoned until assistant director Louis Race came up with an innovative idea. He put a stocking over his hand, covered it with goo, and then held it up in front of the camera. To everyone's amazement, the shot looked fine.
Oh, wow. All right.
And Renee Ashvari is like, yeah, that would have cost us thousands of dollars in post-production, but those guys did it for nothing. It was a great moment in guerrilla filmmaking.
Yeah. See, that's what they always say about filmmaking, is like, it's those moments of hardship that make you do the most creative stuff. So Odo and Mora are exhilarated. Mora admits that Odo's method might have some merits to it. Odo tells Mora he probably would have never amounted to anything if Mora hadn't done all those experiments on him. Mora is extremely gratified to see Odo finally succumb to his years of gaslighting. And then Odo orders them some champagne. In the bar, Quark looks over his books and decides he's going to have to start watering the drinks down. Then he finds Odo behind the bar, cheerfully stealing all his booze. Odo makes Quark a drink, while Quark uncomfortably listens to him talk about the joys of being a dad. he's like, what's going on? Am I under arrest? Or and he's like, okay, fine, whatever. I did it. Just stop this.
It is funny, like how uncomfortable Quark is. Yep.
Then Odo gets a call from the computer that the baby changeling is sick. You see, unfortunately, some technobabble happened, and now it's dying. Odo takes the changeling and pours it into his hands and begs it not to die, but then the goo absorbs into his hands. Odo is amazed. He runs outside and shapeshifts out of his clothes and flies away as a bird.
Well, it is, according to the script, it is, what is it? A Tarkalian hawk, which he had just earlier told the baby, like, oh, I'll teach you how to be a Tarkalian hawk. You also see his clothes fall to the ground because they're not part of him like they used to be.
Yes. Calling back to when Garrick fitted him for a uniform or something. Or no, who was it that Garrick fitted for a uniform? No, Garrick fitted him for a uniform right before he had to go be arrested, right?
Oh, yes, you're right. At the end of the episode, because it's like, okay, you fitted me for a uniform, now let's take you to jail. You're right.
Yep.
So let's see. The fact that Odo's status as a solid was not permanent is hinted at in the earlier episode, Things Past, where Bashir reveals that Odo still has morphogenic enzymes in his system.
Yes. That cause him to link with people
link
who
with
are
the
not
people
even
somehow.
changed. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, he has his changeling abilities back somehow.
Well, yeah, the baby changeling died, so that he
the
could
baby
get them
changeling
back.
used its dying breath to give Odo his abilities back.
And it's a shame that like the amazing, incredible medical expert Dr. Bashir couldn't like cure that changeling.
Yeah.
Not even with all his skill.
But Dr. Mora leaves on the same shuttle that Shakar does. But first, Odo walks him back. Odo expresses his new stomach-churning appreciation for Dr. Mora and how it must have hurt him when Odo left. And he regrets not including Dr. Mora in his life. And Dr. Mora says he still can. Then Odo reaches out for a handshake, but Mora brings it in for a hug.
And then we never see him again.
Right? Odo runs into Kira on her way back from dropping off Shakar, and the two relate to each other's weird, unsatisfying baby experiences and go off to take a walk together. The end.
Yeah, so according to Nana Visitor, like the original version of the script had her being like super happy and not at all conflicted about like giving up the baby. And then since she had just had a child at this point, she goes to Ira Stephen Bear and she's like, this does not feel real to me. Like, I want you to put in a little bit about, that there's more complicated feelings about this here. Because, like, I don't think that someone who just gave birth could that easily give up a child and not, like, care at all.
Yeah. Oh, maybe that's the way Bajorans do it, but I guess it's good to listen to her, because she did just have a baby, so.
Mm-hmm. Rene Auberjonois stated in interviews this is one of the most memorable episodes that he filmed, and one of the few that he would immediately recognize if a fan referred to it by name or production number, as is often the case at conventions.
In episode 4X06, Itchy played Scratchy's ribcage like a xylophone.
Yep, that's exactly what comes to my mind also.
Those guys are coming to the Star Trek conventions for sure.
I was like, does anyone actually use the production number? Like, I could understand the name, but and immediately I think of that Simpsons, and I'm like, oh, okay,
yep.
Yeah.
It's real. It's the Memory Alpha people.
Yep, I guess it is. I wonder how they got that shot with the bird. Did they like put it inside Odo's clothes and like throw it down and let it fly out?
Those clothes looked kind of computer generated to me, so I assume just a bird handler threw the bird, and then they had some CGI clothes fall to the floor under it.
Yeah, that could be it. The episode takes place 5 months after Body Parts, because it's stated that Kira has been pregnant 5 months and wants that baby out of there. And then Quark quotes William Butler Yeats to Odo when he says the thing about the center cannot hold.
Oh yeah.
This line is from Yeats' 1919 poem, The Second Coming.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Yep.
That's all of the notes on this episode.
That's kind of... This isn't the only time we've heard Quark quote, like, weirdly quote, like, Earth literature.
No, I don't think it is.
There's one significant time before this, but I don't remember what it was.
You know, maybe you haven't read Yeats until you've read it in the original Ferengi.
Right. Yeats is another one of those aliens or whatever.
Yeah.
So how about a little bit of Dr. Bashir watch?
Yeah, okay. So, what's he up to? I mean, he did a fair amount of medical stuff here.
I mean, I felt like he was kind of aloof and uninterested about all the changeling stuff. You might say suspiciously so.
Well, right from the beginning, when he, like, cures the changeling, for one thing, Bashir is usually very full of himself anytime that he, manages a medical miracle of some kind.
Uh-huh.
And this time he's like, oh yeah, no, the way he says it, I forget even what the line is, but he's like, yeah, it's almost entirely, I need to go back and look at that line now, because the way he said it just struck me as so strange.
Yeah, you're right. There hasn't been a lot of Bashir self-aggrandizement lately.
Maybe he's grown as a person.
Could be.
No hitting on women creepily.
Uh-huh. Yeah, like asking, like, objecting when medical procedures go against the patient's wishes. Like, yeah.
Before you know it, he's going to be like, oh no, I can't share, like, confidential medical information with you.
Right. No, that's never going to happen. Nobody cares in the Star Trek universe.
No, they're all so advanced that nobody cares if other people know their medical information. We've reached that point in society.
Yep. Yeah, everybody's ego is, lessened, or I don't know.
Except for Bashir, who,
right,
as we established, has a lot of ego.
Yeah.
Hold on. I've almost gotten through the advertisement, so I can get to this line that I was trying to remember. There's 5 seconds left. There we go. Okay. The purge was almost 100% effective. The concentration of isotopes is nearly negligible. So it's not negligible, but it's almost negligible.
Nearly negligible.
Yeah, it's probably almost fine.
Yeah, let's not write it off as negligible yet, but it's so close to being negligible that the difference might as well be negligible.
So, yeah, that just struck me as a really weird line. Okay, how long does the episode take?
Yeah, so I was kind of paying attention to that, because there's one part when Dr. Mora says, like, after 3 days, like, I had made way more progress with you than this.
Yeah, what he says there is actually, it's like, it's been here a week, and it's only grown by this much. After 3 days, you were, like, twice this big or something.
Yeah, so at least a week.
Yep.
But also, in that week, another episode could have happened.
Also true. I mean, as long as, like, Kira's not still pregnant in another episode, then we can, write that off, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming that these things overlap.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they must, because they end at the same moment.
Right.
Although, it definitely feels like Odo's story must take longer than Kira's story.
Yeah. Well, no, because at the very beginning of...
Oh, yeah. After he cures the changeling, he's like, oh, I better go check on Kira.
But I guess we don't know exactly how long passed between, like, that first failed attempt to give birth and...
That's true. In my mind, it was like the next day, but yeah, we don't know.
So, like, all those stories could have been on pause. They could have gone off and done the last episode or something.
Yeah.
And then, so... Yeah, after the week, I don't know how long it takes. Maybe a day or two.
Yeah, let's see. So, after the week... Okay, so he says the week thing, and that's when Sisko's like, hey... Because, like, that's the fight that they're having when Sisko comes in. And he's like, hey, you better hurry up with this or else.
I mean, they could have done all the new experiments and, gotten it to show its face, and then it got sick and died all in one day, I suppose. Although it was like overnight when Odo was in the bar. Right,
so yeah, it was... Although it's the middle of that night when he gets that call. So I guess there's at least... Yeah, there's let's call it like 2 days at the very least.
Yeah. I think we could maybe call it like an 8-day total or something like that.
Okay.
with a possibility that an episode happened in the middle.
All right, okay.
Okay, so I think we got the day count
Yep.
kind of figured out. I guess we can jump into reviews.
Yeah. What do you think of this one?
Well, I won't beat around the bush. I do not like this episode.
Oh, okay.
So, I cannot stand Dr. Mora and his relationship with Odo. I think it would be a lot easier to relate to Dr. Mora if it just one time he would admit that he feels bad about the things he did to Odo. Even if he didn't know Odo was a living thing initially, he could be like, man, I didn't realize you were a thing that could like feel pain. I'm so sorry. Like, if I could do it differently, I would. But I think he explicitly says, like, I would do it exactly the same if given the chance again. Or he strongly implies that. I've always been interested in the relationship between Mora and Odo because, like, it's very clear that Odo has modeled himself after Mora.
Mm-hmm.
Like, his appearance, his, kind of his personality, and his way that he, his, like, non-religiousness, which was a thing I thought he, like, got from Mora, but maybe that's just, I don't know. Since we see Mora wearing an earring now, and he says, the prophets know at some point, so, or by the prophets or something. So, yeah, but just all this, I feel like all the stuff that happens in this episode is really gross. Like, just the way he just refuses to acknowledge Odo's point of view at any time, and he filters everything through his own, like, hurt feelings over never being told thank you or whatever. And then at the end, Odo even comes around to it. I'm like, no! You got to get some kind of apology out of that guy. And also, I just find Dr. Mora very annoying in general. Even though, like, I'm sure, like, I don't blame that on the actor. I just, you know, that's the way he's written. But
sure.
And I usually don't like having the baby episodes because it's like every pregnancy storyline has to end with one of these episodes. But this one felt kind of low
Except
effort.
for Nurse Ogawa.
This one felt kind of low effort, but at least it was fast and got the job done. So I guess I can't get too mad at it for that. Although there's so much stupid stuff like the Shakar and Chief O'Brien weird petty rivalry seemed kind of dumb. And then also this just feels way too soon to give Odo his abilities back. That's not really like a complaint against the episode, but it seems like there was way more material to mine from this situation.
Maybe, yeah.
Because it's like, man, just another thing. Oh, bad backs, man. This being a solid. But I guess he's had enough, and we got to get him back to a goo form. So, anyway, I give the episode a Lieutenant Junior grade.
Oh, okay.
Much stuff annoys me about it. So, and I'm sure it's like I'm sure it's all the listeners' favorite episode, and you can like leave a comment complaining about it. But that's just how I feel.
So, I an interesting note when you're talking about Mora, I went to his article to look up if there's anything more about him, and he does appear in a couple of books. There's some spoiler that I won't get into because it's major plot point for later, where it turns out Mora was like behind the scenes on something. But the random one here is in the novel Dawn of the Eagles. You find out that he is the cousin of Cedo Jaxa's father. Cedo Jaxa from 2 episodes of The Next Generation. And also, it addresses the fact that Mora could be seen as a collaborator for his work with the Cardassians. Mora, however, aids his people by leaking military secrets he discovers. So, it doesn't want you to hate him for his collaboration. And it's just, it's funny that it never occurred to me, and I've called Odo out several times as like, I feel like he was a collaborator, but it's like, oh yeah, like Mora was working for the Cardassians in a science lab, doing science for them.
Yeah, but he was doing science. Like, one science as good as the other. Like, he wasn't building bombs for them or anything.
No, he was examining unknown samples, which, or in Odo's case at least, which I don't... I mean, potentially he could have discovered something amazing for the Cardassians, although if he was then leaking that to the Bajorans, maybe it would have been good. I don't know. But
yeah. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that if he made some sort of like amazing scientific discovery that could be weaponized, he would not give that to the Cardassians.
one would hope that that might be the case.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know. I mean, I would say he was just, he's a scientist. He wants to do some science, but apparently his version of science is just like, hey, look at this random goo. Let's shock it and see what happens. Should we write any of this down? Nah.
That's okay. So the random goo, let's shock it and see what happens. That I get. That does feel like science to me, where you're like,
okay,
we can't figure out what this substance is. Let's put it in a centrifuge and see if no, that didn't do anything. Let's try these various things to figure out what the hell this is. That makes sense to me. I don't make any good notes. That is not science.
Yeah, or maybe Bajoran science is not that advanced or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
like they never had quite the same scientific revolution that we had, and it just kind of brings up, what was Mora's job? Just like all the random like goo and rocks they found in space that they couldn't describe, and they're like, see if you can figure this stuff out. It's like this one like little like a peanut butter jar sized thing of goo. See if you can tell what that is.
But my opinion on the episode is weirdly similar but opposite of yours in a lot of ways.
Oh dear.
So I also don't particularly like the episode. I find it the part that I hate most is probably the entire Kira Shakar O'Brien thing, because it just feels so dumb to me. And you mentioned it's like the whole thing with O'Brien and Shakar. It just feels idiotic to me. Like I get what they're going for, and it's like, oh man, yeah, he would be maybe jealous of O'Brien in this situation. That would have been an interesting story, like 4 episodes ago. Where Shakar comes to visit and he finds out that his girlfriend has made this really weird relationship with this guy whose baby she's carrying. And like, you could have played that in an interesting way more early on, but now it just feels like completely out of nowhere. And like in a day or two, it's not going to matter anymore. Why are you like being weird right now? And yeah, O'Brien's whole thing, like, I don't get it from his perspective either. And you said that you actually liked that they kind of just got this pregnancy and story ended, like wrapped up quickly at least. That may be one of the things that annoys me the most, is that we've built up this pregnancy thing for like half a season now, and then it's like, oh yeah, that's done. Whatever. We're past it.
But I just kind of have to forgive them for it because they had to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you had to have the baby at some point. I'm not debating that. It's just.
But
like,
I mean, they had to have her be pregnant too.
Right, that's true. It just feels so dismissive, and like at least when Molly is born, it was part of this interesting story, and it added to like the tension of the episode or whatever, right?
Right.
And you don't want to do the same thing again. That's although the funny thing is, Worf is on the station. He's not on vacation. When this baby is born.
Yeah.
But like he said he was going to be. But anyway, yeah, it feels so like the writers were just like, okay, we're ready to be done with this now. Can we be done? Let's write ourselves out of it real quick and then move on. So it feels like a story that we built up a lot that never went anywhere.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. It bothers me about it. And so that's the part that I dislike most. I don't hate the Mora and Odo stuff that much. I don't like it that much. And it does feel very much... I'm not 100% sure that I agree with you that it's way too soon for him to get his powers back. I agree that there's more story that could be told there. I think that they went... I think the Ascent was really like their big, oh, look at the consequences of Odo not having his powers anymore. That's like as far as they went into that. And there's all sorts of other stuff you could do. I would have loved to see more of Odo being a hypochondriac. Or maybe Odo actually does contract a disease. And he has to deal with some of the some of the consequences of being not a shapeshifter anymore. But yeah, this also, they're like, yeah, we're ready to be done with this. Let's just throw it out without any... I feel like at least we got more out of this than we got out of the pregnancy. So I don't dislike it as much. It does feel a little sudden and just like dismissive to me once again. I like that they're addressing this relationship because this is you talked about it. This is an interesting relationship. This clearly...
Yeah.
This is a person who has had a strong and lasting effect on Odo through his whole life. And I mean, you pointed out all these ways that Mora is kind of horrible. And I'm not going to disagree with most of that. I think as a parent, I see his perspective maybe a little bit more. So I don't hate all of the things he did as much as you do, but I agree that for the most part, it's like, oh, this is pretty messed up. And he's one of those people who will just not admit that he was wrong in any way. And that always drives me insane. And like you said, he won't see Odo's perspective. He's just in his own, like, well, how I feel about it is what matters, right? So yes, all of that is pretty horrible. But there's a couple of sections where I cut him some slack because I kind of get where he's coming from on a couple of things, not the majority. And I kind of like where they leave it, where you're just like, no, Odo, you were like, don't fall for his gaslighting, Odo. But I was like, at this point in your life, there is no point in like holding on to all of this stuff and just being angry. I like that Odo's like, okay, you know what? Let's move past that. I don't necessarily agree with his like, well, on some level, like I said, I do agree with the fact that he's like, I have a mysterious substance. I'm going to like do stuff and see what happens to it, because he didn't know that it could feel
right.
And we have a very, I think, kind of next gen perspective on stuff where they find these things and they're like, that is a concern for them. Like, could this be a sentient life form? We need to think about this before we do stuff. That's the kind of thing they would do on the Enterprise. On Occupied Bajor, I 100% believe that it's like, let's throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. And who knows? So I get his perspective on, I was trying to do science to the best of my ability in a bad situation, and I didn't know, like, that I was hurting something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's one of those areas where I'm like, I give him a little more slack than you probably do on this. But and so I like the way they end it there, that Odo's like, okay, I'm going to move past that. Maybe from here we can try to have some sort of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that never goes anywhere.
Right.
So that is another thing that kind of bothers me. But on the whole, not a big fan of the episode. I think it's got way more downsides than upsides. It's weird because I kind of like Odo having his powers back, because I feel like it'll help with like the founder story moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
But it is frustrating that it felt like so quick and so like, it wasn't really that big a deal. We're done with him being solid.
Right.
So I'm conflicted on that part of it. But anyway, all that to say, I think it probably is below the line for me, but not quite as far as you. So I'm going to call it a lieutenant.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, another thing that just I think is a problem with the episode is they push too hard on this analogy that like Mora is Odo's parent.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he talks about the experiments he was doing, he's talking about it as if he was like a parent raising a child. But at that time, that's not what he was doing. He was like, like we've said, he didn't know what this thing was. He was just trying to make it do stuff. And so it's like, I think the episode kind of doesn't, I don't know. It's like, it kind of mixes up the parts that are similar and the parts that are not similar in that analogy.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it creates just kind of a weird tonal effect for me or something. Because, I mean, logically, Mora should be like, I mean, I didn't know what you were when I realized you were a sentient being, that totally changed my perspective. I mean, apparently after that, Mora was still having him do like the Cardassian neck trick and stuff, but
yeah, that doesn't speak well. And you're right. It's like there should be a moment where he's like, "Look, I didn't know you were sentient, and in hindsight, now that I do know that, I'm sorry about that. Like, I wouldn't have done that if I knew that you were a sentient being." But he doesn't. He's just like, I did what I did.
He like doubles and triples and quadruples down on the things that he did. So that's all I need from him, is to be like, look, I know that must have been a horrible experience for you. Like, if I would have known, like, it horrifies me to think that that's what happened, and I'm really sorry, or something like that. That's all I need him to say. But he's just dug in on that stuff. And, like I said, I think we've been given some hints that even after he realized what Odo was, he might not have been the best caretaker of Odo. So
yeah, not the best parental figure or anything like that.
But yeah, that's like ever since the first time we saw him, which was in, it was like the alternate or one of those episodes with a confusing title.
Oh, and I can tell you, he appears in the alternate. Yep.
Okay. So I was always interested in that relationship, because clearly they did not have a good relationship. But it's like, that doesn't stop you from kind of like, that was your role model and influence that you're kind of modeled on. So
I think it kind of plays into the trope about scientists in that, these scientists don't make good parents because they're always more interested in their science than in their kid. And I think that it plays in here too, where Mora is totally coming at this from a perspective of like, I was a scientist. I was doing what scientists do to a subject of my scientific study. And at the same time, he's trying to be like, and then you never call.
Yeah.
And yeah. So it's,
It's like, can you imagine how that must have felt for me when you left and didn't call? It's like, no, I was not considering that at that time. Like, that's the part where the analogy really breaks down. Because it's like, I don't know. Anyway, we should do a title review.
Yes.
The Begotten. So my feeling on this title is, I just think it's a little too dramatic for the story of this episode.
Yeah.
Something about it just makes me feel like the Antichrist is getting born or something.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or
it feels like a very biblical word. I mean,
yeah. Probably
probably the place that I know that word from is like, God sent his only begotten son.
Oh yeah.
Like, where else have you heard that word?
Well, in like, was it like, where's the begats section? Is it in Matthew?
Oh yeah,
like,
so-and-so begat so-and-so.
Yeah, Matthew chapter 1. But there's also one in Genesis where it's like, Methuselah was the father of Enoch, and Enoch was the father of Noah, and all that stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, and I was trying to look and see if that was one of those words like the other one that we talked about where
there's a better definition.
There's like a definition that would kind of fit. But I everything I look at is just like, this is the past participle of beget. Okay, well that's not helpful.
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I couldn't put it into words, but yes, it feels fitting, but way more dramatic than it has any right to be for this episode.
Yeah. As for memorability, I don't know. I mean, I guess Odo or Rene Auberjonois finds it pretty memorable, but
yeah,
probably because he gets asked about it a lot.
Yeah, I don't think I could connect these two, like the name in the episode.
Yeah, I
don't think I would.
We'll see. We'll see if we can remember it at the end of the season.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any other TV shows with the Begotten episode.
There's a film series called Begotten, apparently. Oh, that's an old film series. Like, oh no, it's not. It just looked old. It's a 1990 film and then a 1997 film. Oh, no, the 1997 is the episode of The Next Generation. Never mind. Poem by James L. McMichael. And Star Begotten is a 1937 novel by H.G. Wells.
Yeah, there's a episode of Hagen Reviews called Begotten. I don't know what that is.
Nope, never heard of it.
An episode of Odyssey 5. I also don't know what that is.
No.
And an episode of Total Recall 2070 called Begotten Not Made. Which, again, I never heard of that.
So this film from 1989-1990 called Begotten is an American experimental horror film, which I'm not going to read too deeply into, but I was scrolling through here, and there is... The cast lists Brian Salzberg as the character's name is apparently God killing himself.
So his first name is God, and his last name is killing himself.
And then the description of this cast, or of this character, a mysterious robed entity who disembowels himself with a straight razor.
Okay. This sounds like an interesting movie. Not interesting enough for me to ever want to watch it, but...
The other two characters on the cast list, only two other ones, is Donna Dempsey as Mother Earth and Stephen Charles Barry as Son of Earth.
Huh. So maybe the Son of Earth is the Begotten.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. So that was another fun tangent. Anyway, we better wrap it up there, I think.
Yeah.
I don't want to do any more outtakes. Yeah, so we thank you for joining us today. If you like this, maybe you like our review of, we just said the name of it, The Alternate, where we met Dr. Mora.
Yeah.
Or any future episodes that might involve Dr. Mora that won't exist, because we already spoiled that.
That will totally exist, as far as you know, if you haven't listened to all the episode up till now.
Yeah, or just, any like Odo being a changeling storyline episodes. But yeah, you can find that, all our past episodes and possibly future episodes, on wherever you listen to this. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube. But anyway, my name is Fletcher. About to say goodbyes, Data.
See ya.
We look forward to seeing you for our next discussion, but just remember, don't stand between me and the talking apple juice. It's like, what happens if somebody drinks that changeling? I was worried about that like half the episode.
What would happen?